Welcome to Catch It, a new perception. We're going to do our best to talk about how we can change the way we feel by changing the way that we think. It's a process that we go through every moment of our lives. It's subconscious. We don't realize that our thinking dictates how we feel. In future episodes, we're going to talk about the subconscious. We're going to talk about terminology that we use. We're going to talk about a lot of different things that surround our perception. The way that we feel, how we are empowered, each one of us individually are empowered to be able to change it. To be able to dictate how we feel by changing the way that we think. And the way that we change how we think often is by changing what we do. Sometimes by changing our subconscious. Sometimes by changing our terminology. Realizing that the verbiage and the words that we use will dictate how we think. Do we really need to use curse language and swear to be able to get a point across? Or does it just show our ignorance that we're not intelligent enough to come up with other terminology and to define other words? Or do we use curse language for effect, which isn't effective with some people? It's offensive because ignorance shines at that moment. And it's offensive that someone isn't able to use different words to be able to describe how they think or feel. And then that dictates how they feel about themselves. And they're not even conscious of it. It all rolls through the subconscious. Through this time of this podcast, we will find ways to be able to change the way that we think. If we take a different action each day, and upon awakening, we begin to do something different than what we did before, we will begin to think different. Therefore, by the end of the day, we will feel different than we've ever felt before. There are certain things that people do that will work in their lives, and other people say, oh no, that's not going to work. And if you tell yourself it's not going to work, it will not work. You do not have a chance to allow it to work when you tell yourself, no, this isn't for me. No, that can't work for me. No, I've tried that. You have defeated yourself in being able to grow and change. When you find that what someone else does to change the way that they think, and you find that you could do that same thing, maybe repeatedly, you'll maybe have to do it 10 times more than they will because of the negative talk you have given yourself or the things you have listened to through music, through other people, family, so-called friends, and the negative talk that they have given you. Maybe you'll have to do it 100 times to be able to come out of the fog, the subconscious fog that you've been in up to this point. It's time for all of us to get to know our higher self. It's time for all of us to continue to change. When I use terminology like always and never, I am ignorant. Those are not terminologies that will work for me today. Because I do not know everything, I cannot say, this will never happen. This always happens. I need to be open-minded to learning. I believe that each one of us come into this lifetime to learn and to teach. I am here to share my experience. I think the best way of being able to help someone else is to share experience. When I speak of the Creator, I do not mean to offend anyone. If you use terminology that is different than mine, God, Allah, Confucius, Prime Cause, Divine Mind, Jehovah, whatever that master may be, or whatever that mystery may be, or whatever that divinity is real. The terminology I use should not dictate how you think about that power, that energy, that life force, Mother Earth, whatever that terminology is to you. Bring it on and be part of. There's no longer reason to separate yourself. It's time to come together as one. We can all walk forward together. We do not need to look down on other people, because in doing so, we are speaking derogatory of ourselves, because that is another human being next to us. They have done things to offend us. They have hurt us. Does not mean that we need to repay that and show them that we are like them. I would like to speak to anyone that would like to change their life from this time going forward. We have the opportunity from this time going forward to be able to not commit suicide today, to not suffer from depression the way we did yesterday or last week. We have the opportunity to not have the same anxiety that we had yesterday, last week, or last month. We have the opportunity to be able to think different today, to be able to help others, and realize that if we are of service to other people, that we have an opportunity to move forward, to think different, as we treat other people different, as we treat ourselves different, as we become one with everyone, with the universe. It's larger than global thinking. It is universal thinking that will take us to meet our higher self. Now, I personally have a belief that we return to the spirit world. It's where we came from. It's where we will return to. And I believe that there's some work to be done before we get there. That each one of us has to do certain things to be able to improve our lives, to be able to change our lives, to be able to improve other people's lives, have an impact on other people's lives, and know that we can always improve, change. We can always do something different than we did yesterday. Even if we're 75 years old and we've done it every day of our lives, we need to understand we can do it differently. If we're 97 years old and we've done it every day of our lives, we can do it differently if we choose to do that. We may need help. We may ask the Creator for help. We may ask other humans for help. We may just be able to do it by standing up, walking the other direction. We always took a right at that doorway. For 97 years, we've taken a right at that doorway every morning. Today, we take a left. Today, we go forward. Today, we make a decision to not decide today. Many changes can be made. At the risk of everything that I have, I will do everything in my power to not offend people. I don't need to be offensive I don't mean to be offensive. So therefore I will do my best to not offend others. If I have been offended by people, it doesn't mean I have the right to offend them. Then I've only shown them that I'm just like them. And maybe I've shown them that they were justified in how they treated me because I just treated them the same way. I don't want to justify bad behavior today in myself or anyone else. I want to be able to move forward, to see the light, move towards the light, be able to help others along the way, be able to understand that the truth is upon us. And how do we find the truth? Well, that's exactly what this podcast is about. We're going to explore how to find the truth, how to be able to change our subconscious, how to be able to change our conscious mind, and how we can feel different each and every day of our lives. One young lady in my life, she was but a child when we first explored this idea. And it was on her birthday, and we were outside of a strip mall. And I asked her to observe a man walking in the strip mall. I said, you need to make sure that you and your friends are never alone with him. You need to keep your distance from him. He has hurt many children. He is what people call a pedophile. You need to make sure that you're conscious of who he is and that you and your friends are safe by never being around him. Make sure you get a good look at him before he walks in that building, as he turned the corner and disappeared as he walked in that building. I said to this beautiful young lady, I said, I need to be a little more honest with you. I said, that man has never hurt a child in any way, never touched anyone in an offensive way. He volunteers on a regular basis, and through his lifetime, he has helped thousands and thousands of people. He has impacted people's lives for the better. He has allowed people to change because of what he has gifted them along the way. He is nothing but a good man. And I told this young lady, the only thing that has changed about him is the way that you think about him. So if you feel different than when I first told you about him, and you heard that he was a pedophile, and that he was not safe around children, and you feel different now when I tell you he is a good man, in my eyes, a righteous man, a healthy man, maybe even divine. If you feel different, it's because your thinking about him changed. He did not change one bit. He is exactly the same man he has been the whole time. So if you have the ability to be able to see the truth in this, you know that your thinking just dictated how you felt. If that is true, that how you felt about him changed from one description to the next, that means that your thinking has dictated how you felt every moment of your life. And it will dictate how you feel. Your thinking, your perception, or your misperception will dictate how you feel every moment of your life from this day forward. Now, what we will attempt to do in these podcasts going forward is to help you understand that we can help you change the way you think so that you will feel different. If you walked in a room and you had misperceptions about yourself, about other people in the room, maybe it's time to change that perception. Maybe it's time to realize that you can change your perception about yourself, you can change your perception about other people, or if you will, your misperceptions. There comes a time in everyone's life where we realize that we can do things different. What we need to realize is that we're willing to do things different. And if we're willing to, it doesn't mean we want to. It doesn't mean it will be easy. There's a difference between willing to and wanting to. Because in the last 3.5 decades, as I have done everything I can in my power to change, to move forward and to get to know my higher self, I have not always wanted to do the things I do. And I have always been willing to do the things I do. So if you're willing to change the way that you think, even if sometimes you don't want to, we are going to be here to assist you with that. We are going to be here to help you change the way you think if you're willing to. So, from this day forward, you never have to again think the way you once did. If you get up tomorrow and you take different action than you took today, you will begin to think different. Is it a type of thinking you want? Is it a type of thinking you can live with? Is it a type of thinking that makes you feel good about who you are, about what you do, how you represent in the world? This doesn't have to do with class, doesn't have to do with ethnicity, wealth, spirituality, religion. The lightness, tone of your skin, the darkness of your skin color, it has nothing to do with any of it. It's not what happened to us as children. Some of us went through some very traumatic things when we were young, coming up. It's not what happened to us that makes us feel the way we feel today. It's how we think about those events, about those situations, and or, if you will, that trauma. Now, I had some trauma when I was young, when I was very young, some violence that was very interesting. Today, I do not choose to call that trauma in my life. It was trauma in my life. I am not a victim of what happened to me. Just matter-of-factly, things were difficult, at times violent. At times, I was a victim. I am not today. Today, I am a proud man, willing to change, happy in what it is that I do, how I move. I have identity, purpose, and direction. I am a spiritual man, willing to help others, continuing to ascend. Identity, purpose, and direction. Today, I have identity, purpose, and direction. I am a spiritual man, willing to help others, continuing to ascend. There comes a time where we all need to change something, where we all need to be part of, where we no longer need to distance ourselves. It's a process that we go through. And sometimes it's difficult to get there. So through these podcasts, we will do our very best to be able to talk about such things. Now, when I talk about changing one's perception, I want you to catch a new idea. I want you to have a new perception because your thinking's changed. Because you do the work. If you're able to hear something through these podcasts that changes you, that impacts your life, that allows you to be better, we honor that in you. It is because you opened your mind or you opened your heart enough to allow the Creator in. I don't believe that it comes from me. It may come through me. I will only be a messenger in this lifetime. And if that message carries depth and weight, and you're able to get to know yourself, if you're able to change that way of thinking, I will be forever grateful that you were able to find this podcast. We will take the time to explore some of these things deeper in each and every podcast that we do. We will take the time to be able to go in depth on what you can do, how you can change your thinking. I will begin to give you some examples right now. Maybe it's time to change the music that you listen to. The things that you watch on TV, on your phone, online. If you're watching things that have to do with crimes and murder and violence, and listening to music that promotes such things, and you struggle emotionally, you're kind of depressed, or you have anxiety, or you don't feel good about yourself, you don't feel good about the situation you're in, maybe it's time to change what you're putting into your mind. Maybe you don't like the idea of changing it. Well, this is what I like. Well, if this is what you're used to, of course it's what you like. Because it's what you've conditioned yourself to. It's possible that if you change your perception, the things that you're putting into your mind, creating your perception, your music, what you're viewing for videos, what you're watching on social media, what you're watching on television, the movies you go see, if it's all about violence, it may be dictating something that you don't want in your mind, and therefore forcing you to feel a certain way because of your thinking. When you change those things, you will be well on your way to a new way of thinking. And at that point, you will have an option to be able to change, to be able to put new things into your mind so that you think different. You make a different approach to someone. You make a different approach to life. You make a different approach to yourself. Then you have the ability to be able to feel different. So you dictate how you feel. It's not situations. It's not the things around you. It's not your job, your place of employment. It's not any of those things. It's the way you think about them. Do you walk into work at the last minute Do you bitch about your job all day long? Do you complain about being able to make money and then wonder why you don't like your job? Or do you show up early to see what you can do, how you can improve the situation, whether that's just having conversation with someone, smiling at someone? Just think of how a smile could change someone's day. And then you learn to give them a sincere smile. It's not just a smile, it's real, because you feel something different inside of you the next day. What if you showed up to work 10 minutes earlier than you usually do? What if you began to do things different each and every day? Well, to show up 10 minutes earlier to work, you might have to leave 15 minutes earlier from your home. What if that gave you a whole new way of thinking about your job? What about when you walk into your job and someone's complaining about what the job is or what's being done there? And you look at them and smile and say, I'm happy to have a job today. It's nice to be employed. Or, it's nice to be employable. What if you could become a better employee? Would that make you feel different? Because you're thinking different about your job? Our jobs have a lot to do with who we are and what we are because we spend so much of our day there. So how we think about where we work, our employer, other employees, the entire team, how we think about that will dictate how we feel. Not just when we're at work, when we're outside of work. Everything that we do will dictate how we feel. Every way that we think will dictate how we feel. Where are we going to go from here? How are we going to see it different? Are we going to be able to do it different, see it different, so we can feel different? Those are the questions we need to ask ourselves. If you're interested in exploring this, I invite you to listen to more podcasts. My name is Ketuk. The podcast is called Catch It, A New Perception. And I challenge you to see if you can catch it. I challenge you to see if you can find a new perception within yourself because of the things that you're willing to do or sometimes not do. I was sitting with an elder one time years ago, and I looked at this man who I have great admiration for, great love, great respect. And I said, I'm here to learn. And he, without hesitation, looked me in the eye and said, I'm here to unlearn. So through these podcasts, we may need to unlearn some things before we can make room for new ideas. We may have to get some old ideas out of our head before there's any room for new ideas. Moving forward, I hope that at some point I'm able to impact people's lives. It truly would be a passion for me to be able to be a channel, to be able to help someone else at some point in their lives. Until next time, I hope that you find everything that you need. I know that timing and approach are the two key essential things to accomplishing anything in life. So let's pay attention to timing and approach in future podcasts. Live in harmony with and use the bounty of the land to bring kindness to the world. Looking forward to next time.